like, watch me jump.
Hey guys, my name is Adrian, I am part of TagAnimationz, and today we are going to get into another tutorial. But first, I think I should talk about just a few things. My website, TagAnimationz.weebly.com. A lot of cool stuff here if you want to keep up to date with the things I'm doing and different stuff, donations and stuff. Everything that I'm doing is here, followed with all my work and different things you can buy from me and stuff to help me out with my goals. One of those being a new PC so I can do more stuff for you guys. And the other one is to actually make this site an actual site, TagAnimationz.com. If I can raise at least to $50, then I can really get a domain that says, you know, TagAnimationz.com and cut out this Weebly part. So just want to let you guys know about that. If you guys want to visit that site, it's here in my page. If you go to my channel and then go to About, it's right here under all this. You just click on my official site and it's right there. Okay, and then the other thing I want to talk about is I have a new pack available for anyone who wants to get it. It's just models of different types. I think it's like 20. I made 20 different tables and 17 different models of chairs, Minecraft chairs. If you guys want to check those out, so that's pretty cool. So, yep, that's it for that. So today's tutorial is all about lighting. It's just the basics. Lighting is very, very broad, and there's so much to it that it's crazy to want to go over everything in just one tutorial. So later on, I will do a couple more tutorials about more in-depth lighting and how to do certain things, especially when it comes to scene making and stuff. So later on in more advanced tutorials, I'll be putting that in. But for right now, I think just showing you guys the basics would probably be best because, you know, it's just the basics and stuff. And I think not even when it comes to lighting and stuff and how I said it was very broad, not everyone understands the full capability of what a light and what you can do for lighting and stuff. So let's get into it. So as you can see, I have a light here, I have a light here, I have a glowstone block right here, so it's basically a cube with the texture on it, a plane, a camera. The camera doesn't really mean anything, but it's just so that way well, I'll just take it out. And then I have a sky and an environment. I'll get to all that stuff first, or later. So the settings are the same as I talked about in my first tutorial. If you haven't seen any of my tutorials or any of the previous ones, this is going to be the third one. So there's not that much to catch up on, but if you want to go watch and see what the settings and stuff are for everything that I use, you should probably look at the first and second tutorials before watching this one. So these are just the settings that I've had in the first tutorial. Low global illumination for everything, and an ambient occlusion is just regular, just with transparency and stuff. Options 888, 1 and 4, and basically 1280 by 720, just standard stuff. So lighting, let's get into this. So first we're going to talk about what the general properties of lights, just from the basics. So when you load up on a light, I will turn glowstone off for right now. So when you load up a light, you're basically gonna get a white light just like this, and it's gonna be turned on like that, and basically you can adjust it and stuff like that, and it looks beautiful. As you can see here, there's some light. Without it, you won't see everything. Everything's just going to be dark and black. So everyone probably pretty much knows that. That's how a light works. You can add shadows, and if there was an object here, so if we put another cube here, the shadow will come off of this and come into this. Now the floor is a little bit reflective, so you're gonna see a reflection over here, but this shadow, if you put shadow on, then it's gonna get that shadow right there for the light. So that's soft shadows, area shadows. So the difference between soft and area, you don't really ever want to use hard unless there's a certain particular look you're trying to look for. For me, my my practice is basically to, if it's not the main light, put it to soft shadow. If it is the main light, use the area shadow. So what I mean is, if it's the main light that's shining your object, and since this is the main light shining this object, I would put this to area, and that just gives it a better shadow. I haven't really tested what soft and area look like, you know, before and after, but for a better and cleaner look, I would use area most of the time. So that's just that. So this is just all the basic stuff. I will talk about visible light after everything, because this is probably the hardest part to understand about of lights, and I'll talk about these settings afterwards too. So going on, we'll go to the next tab. Details. A lot of people like to reject these about like most of this, go to like lens in general is probably all they'll use. So I'm gonna put this to like a dark red so you can really see what's going on. I'm gonna raise it up a little bit. So under details, really I wouldn't suggest using anything in the first part, but when you come down to fall off, this is really good if you're trying to get a really nice effect. Because in real life, lights don't really expand this far out. They have a small general area. And so when you start out with a Omni light, which this is, it basically just encompasses like everything. So if you put this to physically accurate or inverse square, you don't really want to use these because they're not, I wouldn't say they're not good, but they're just, to me, they're not in the right aspect of correctness, if you will. So basically, when you put this on physically accurate, it's going to give you something that looks like a fall off circle. So basically, you can move this and you can see what your fall off is with light. So you can actually like make it how you want it, which I find really nice because it's not forever expanding, it's just in the area you want it to be. And so if I do this now, then you can see it's only going to affect this partial area. Everything else is going to be darkened out, which is really nice because it shows it limits amount of calculation that's going on around the scene, and it's also giving the nice effect of the hot spot being here and really fading out in the further run. So that's one of the few things that you can do to really make I mean, this by itself really brings a scene to life, because you have the control for your light. You're just not letting it, you know, forever expand into the distance, into infinity. So yeah. So that's one thing. Everything else here I don't really use, so anything that I don't really use I'm not going to really go over, because me telling you stuff that I don't know wouldn't really make sense. So hopefully you can understand that. So details, so that's one of the things. Under visibility, this all has to do with volumetric lights, which I'll go over at the end. And a lot of this stuff is really cool, but also can get complicated at times. Shadow, nothing here really needs to be changed if you don't want to. This basically just tells how much of the shadow you want. So if I put that to a low value like 19, you're not going to see much of a shadow over here. You can see, yeah. See how light it is? It's it's hardly visible, but you can kind of see it. So basically that's what that does, but other than that, you can't really, it doesn't really serve that much of a value for our needs at least. And then for the most part, I will go over this in another tutorial because this is a thing of its own. Kind of, there's so much things you can do with the noise channel and stuff. When talking about like smoke and clouds and stuff. This is really cool. And then lens effects. So we're gonna get to lens effects. I know that was like a quick rundown of everything, but trust me, in a more in-depth tutorial, there's gonna be a lot more that I can say and teach you guys. But for right now, just for the basics, I'm kind of trimming down what I'd usually teach and trying to keep within a 30-minute limit because I don't want to bore you guys with everything in this tutorial. So. So with lens effects, a lot of people, well, I like to say a lot of people, but maybe it might just be the people that I know. Lens effects isn't really something a lot of people take advantage of, even though it's here. It's really cool if you can get the right kind of look. So, for example, say we wanted this to be like a, I think this is good. And you can edit these. Trying to find. So basically what lens effects does is just like a flare. If you ever worked with Adobe Premiere or any of those kind of softwares, it's almost like a flare. Basically you have your effect, and it basically goes up wherever the light it is. So wherever this is, that's where this kind of light effect is gonna be. So let's see if I can't okay. So, and to do that, you always want to make sure in your render settings you have lens effects on. Sometimes it turns on by itself, sometimes it doesn't. You just want to make sure it's in there or else it won't work. So basically I just put on a random lens effect, and by doing that you'll see that there's going to be a light source emitting afterwards. After the render's done, it's going to show a light source right here, right there. And so lens effects are really nice for that extra lighting. I don't know what to call it, but it's really nice. Why not show a sun? I'm trying to find a really good example. I think, okay. So we're gonna do this star preset kind of thing, but there's so much you can do. You can edit these to how you want, and then kind of save them in your content browser for later. But this is a good representation of it. So even though there's not an object here, I didn't get like a circle or anything or sphere and put it here. It has the illusion that there's a red orb in the middle, and that's where all the light is shining from. So besides just going over this, it's really cool to have lens effect, because it just gives that much more detail to your light. And especially when you're talking about having things like go in front of it and pass behind it. So if you have an object in front of it, then see how it says fade if behind object. Since the light is behind this cube, it's going to turn off that lens effect, and then once that cube goes away again, then it's going to turn back on. And you can see after this renders that the light won't be there, or the glowing effect won't actually be there anymore, as you can see. So I think it's really cool because it's kind of lifelike. It's almost like if it was actually like a real thing, even though it's like a cheap way of doing it. It's really cool and it's really nice. So yeah, that's lens effects. And basically reflexes is basically the little shine that you get afterwards. So if we were to find a really nice reflex, like let's say this, and then say go like this. So a reflex is basically the shine that comes to the camera, so it's what the camera kind of sees as like a reflection of the light, or like when you look into a flashlight, how it kind of shines in your eyes like this. I think this is really unique because it, it it really does reflect like what the light is doing. It kind of gives the sense that you're actually looking into light and not, you know, away from it, or that it's fake or whatever. So these are things to keep in mind, especially when it comes to lights. Details and lens are going to be really big really big things later on in the process of lighting, and you really want to make sure you can look at those in the future and try to figure those things out. So yeah, so that's that. That's kind of the quick rundown through lighting and well, not lighting, but lights in general for the settings and stuff. And so now we are going to, let me turn off this lens again. So now we're going to deal with volumetric lighting if we can. I don't know what I just did. There we go. So now we're going to get into the big kahuna, the volumetric lighting. So I'm going to turn both of these into soft lights actually, so that way render times are a little bit less. Okay, so we have a red light here, red light, and we have a yellowish light over here. We're gonna put them both to that fall off, so both to this, and goodbye Skype, and 156. I'm gonna set them both to the same thing. Okay. And we're gonna set this one a little bit high too. Okay, so they're about the same. Not really, but whatever. Okay, so now that we have these two lights, we can now explore the volumetric side of things. So visible light, first off, which is the first one. So it's not really, it is volumetric, but it goes through, it's not like how do I want to say it? So let's render these. Let's just render them, and I can shine more light on what visible is. So basically what visible lighting is it basically shows the light as a visible like appearance, so it can go through. So think of like a gas cloud, it's like that. That's what visible lighting is. Volumetric lighting is light that, imagine a gas cloud, and then imagine like something sucking the gas cloud at the end, how it makes it like very dense at the top, and then it like lowers in the bottom, so like a gradient. It's hard to explain. So what I'll do is I'll screenshot this really quick, okay, and then I'll show you what the volumetric lighting is for this, and then you'll have a sense of what each one is, and I'll be able to describe it a little bit better. And then this is volumetric, and you kind of see that it's kind of the same at first. So do that. Okay, so basically they look the same from here, and it's not much to really say, but if we were to have this one, how do I want to say this? So we're gonna make this cube a lot larger. I'm pretty sure that volumetric light, it can pass through an object, but visible lighting doesn't pass through. Visible lighting like shows apart. So this middle circle, if you can't see, is the visible lighting thing. So basically I put the cube near the center but not fully in the middle, so the light should shine from it. Should. And if that is correct, no it won't, because the cube is on it. So if it's like that, then will it? No. Actually, I have no clue what visible light is then. For all I know, it's pretty much the same as volumetric. Probably can't do much with it. I don't really know, so I won't go over it. I thought I knew, but I guess I don't know. So just take that with a grain of salt then. So let's go over volumetric then. Actually, this is volumetric. Oh, sorry. Let me play back to visible. Okay, yeah. So like I was saying, visible light goes through the object and volumetric won't. So just think about it this way: visible light is if you want to like override, if you don't want to go abide by like real lighting, then it would be you want to use visible. Visible is also good for if you want to use if you want objects to appear lit, but you can also do that with volumetric. So I guess it's up to, you know, it's up to the person what they want, but I know for a fact that volumetric cannot go through an object unless it's like transparent, and visible can. So just think about it like that. So yeah, so we have this cube, we have visible lighting or volumetric lighting, and so we're gonna do some fun stuff with this. I'm not really gonna go over inverse volumetric because that's basically the opposite of volumetric. I mean, it's, yeah, you'd hardly use it for anything in what I think, so I'm not really gonna go over that in a basic tutorial, but maybe in the future when we start dealing with scenes and stuff, it might be appropriate to talk about that. So basically, once you have a visible light, you have so many possibilities with all these different settings here. The ones I'm going to talk about are these ones in the middle, and not so much this one right here, because if you have details on and you have physical accurate on, then you don't really need to worry about the fall off much, because you already have a fall off right here. So basically, with visibility, so you have inner distance, outer distance, you have relative scale, sample distance, brightness, dust, and dithering. So inner distance is basically the light source. So just imagine that this is like the source of the light, and it's going to be the brightest, and this outer circle is going to be like the limit of that. That's when the light is going to start to fade out, or it's going to fade throughout here and then probably like end about here. So this is the inner distance, this is the outer distance. Usually most people would put their outer distance above their what do you want to call it, the fall off for the details. So this is the fall off, and you can see that this is also a circle, so this would be the middle circle, and then your outer circle would be the outer distance, if you understand. So if you think about like the Saturn's rings, it kind of looks like that. I don't know. So basically you have your brightest, your least brightest, and then your brightest, your fall off, and then your outer distance. So what I just did here was I told Cinema 4D that I want the brightest part of the light to be in this circle right here. Then I told it that I want the light to start to fade out around this part. So it's gonna fade, like the actual light is gonna fade here. Then I told Cinema 4D that I want the visible light to fade off around here. So it's gonna have a longer fade out. So it's gonna be from here to here instead of from here to here. So I'm gonna render that so that you can see, and then I'll talk a little bit about that. Okay. So now you can see that there's a lot going on here now. So remember what I said, there's going to be a small amount of light, or a small but hot source of light right here. Then the light's going to fade out around here, so that's what it's doing. And then the visible light is going to fade out past that, and that's what it's doing here. So it's a really unique effect to get a lot of things going, and if I will show you an example, and turn off that light for a second. I'm gonna put the radius of the decay that and this there. I'm gonna bring it up a little bit more. and turn it up a little bit higher, so that way we get more light going. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, remember how we were talking about cloners last time? I'm gonna put the cube in the cloner. I'm going to put this on grid array and put this to 400, 400, 400. And I'm gonna reduce the size of the cube. Hopefully that makes, yeah. And then I'm gonna bring the cloner up. Do like 7. Okay. So basically, we have all these cubes, and then we have this light in the middle. So what we're gonna do is, this is a little bit advanced, but I just want to show you what I'm doing advanced examples so that way you can see what's actually going on here with this light. So basically, I'm going to make the visibility, so the outer distance, so as far as the light can shine, and like how the visible, how what you can see, it's gonna be like right there. So that means all these are gonna be able to have like intertwine with the light, the visible light, and but all the light is actually just gonna be centered around here, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna render this really quick. Should be pretty simple. Yeah. So this is gonna take a few seconds to render, and so basically, as you can see, the middle of this light source is shining out from here, and all these cubes are getting their like shadows casted in this visible light. And because I made the visible light present to pretty much this whole thing, you can see that it only dies out around the edges, but you can see the middle parts still get their shadows and stuff. So that's basically what volumetric can do, and you can see it's a really powerful effect. Volumetric lights are no joke, man. They are crazy, like ×2, ×4 crazy. So just keep that in mind. Volumetric and messing with a lot of these settings right here, even just these two, really produce power effect, especially when you have the physically accurate on, because if we were to turn that off, kind of see what's going on here. Turning it off, you'll see what's going on here. You can see that a lot of this other stuff will get, you can see that there's light all the way back here when there's really not supposed to be. So I mean, you can do it with, if you did it with physically accurate, so if you move the decay further back, then you can still get that same effect, but it's better if you did it that way than if you did it with this way, because this way isn't that great. And you can see the shadows are moving all the way back, even though this is pretty far back. So yeah. So physically accurate is probably the best way to go if you're trying to go for realistic lighting and stuff. So I'm gonna take those cloners out, and let me talk about some of the other stuff in here. So sample, what relative scale does, by the way, is it basically just scales it, so you can scale the size of these dimensions for the visible light. So if I wanted the light to be concentrated in like a beam or something, I can do it like this, and you can see, you'll be able to see that the light is gonna emit from here and then just do like a streak, which is really awesome if you're trying to go for that effect. So that's relative scale. You can do a lot of really cool things with it, and you see this middle part is what determines, so the inner distance determines that really bright hot spot, and yeah, do that so it looks like a giant like arrow streak going far away, the speed of light. Sample distance is basically, I'm pretty sure it's just how detailed you want the thing. pretty sure if you put it like 4, it's gonna be pretty accurate and stuff like that. I don't really know, but you can see that it's taking a lot longer to calculate things than when it was on 25. So I'm pretty sure it's just the accuracy of the thing. But if you just want it at 25 just for a fast render, then that's good. Brightness is basically how bright you want it, how bright you want the visible light. So if we put this up to like 600, everything's gonna look like the hotspot. You can see how bright that is now. Notice how it doesn't deal with the actual light, but it does deal with the visible light. So visibility really does give you a lot of control over the visible light, not only and in details does the actual light. So you have a lot of control over the two distinct features of just a light. Dust is something we can go in a little bit later, but it's if we put these back to their original values, you can see that by putting dust on, there's a lot more dust in this area than there used to be. You see everything looks a little bit more cloudy, a little bit more dusty. Looks like there's an explosion here. Either that or like a baby face, or I don't even know. That's kind of creepy. But you can see how there's a little bit. Everything looks a little bit dustier, not so clear. And yeah, that's basically those. I don't really want to go into dithering because I sometimes just put it to like, I would only put it to like 2, but I don't exactly know what it does. So I'm not gonna try to go over that. I was saying that I was gonna go over these 2 options too. So I'm going to do that. And so basically, the first option, no illumination, basically goes towards the lens effects. So if you're trying to do a lens effect, but you don't want the light to do like a light. So if you don't want this light to cast the orange thing, but you do want to have like the shining effect, the flare, you can do that by putting no illumination. You'll see the lights going off, but when you render it, it should, hold up. Oh, because it's still volumetric. So you don't want to with this, you don't want to have a volume light. If you're trying to just do the lens flare without the lighting, you don't want a volumetric light. You just want to have the light, turn off the shadows. Yeah, you just want to have lens and then turn off the shadows and everything, and then check no illumination. And then when you do it, it should show, yeah, it should show that. So this is a really nice way to get your flares without having any lighting. Or you can just save them. You can composite them later, so you can just render out all these flares and different types of flares, save them as PNGs, and then composite them into Adobe After Effects or something, so that way you can get it how you want it to be. So that's a really cool way. And then another thing I use quite often actually is this ambient illumination effect. So basically what that does is it provides ambient illumination. You have to turn off details though. So basically what it does is, instead of doing like a small area, so you can see it's already doing like a small area, but ambient illumination, when checked, it does everything. Anything in the scene will get lit. So it's really nice for doing like fake global illumination. You can kind of like highlight little things in your scene that aren't actually supposed to be lit. So if I wanted to like this is right here, the light's over here, it's not really supposed to get lit. But say I wanted to light it, and I'm gonna put this on white so you can really see what's going on. I'm not sure if it's lighting it or not, but basically it doesn't matter where in the scene this is. This can be so far down and it'll still light everything. It's probably because this doesn't have a texture that you can't really see what's going on, and probably because everything's probably the same color and stuff. But anyways, yeah, if you want to light stuff in your scene, usually you want to, if you're doing ambient illumination, you want to put that down very low, so that way a little bit of your stuff is getting lit, but not all the way. This is like a support light in a way. You can basically cheat on different stuff, make things in the background appear a little bit lighter, so that way you don't have to actually put lights back there and stuff. So that's a quick rundown on lights. Hopefully you learned a lot from that. And again, if you have any questions or anything for lights in general, just let me know in the comments. But we aren't done yet. There's a few more things I wanted to go over before we go. And one of those things is glowstone. So here I have a glowstone block. I don't have any lights in the scene, and I have a plane for the time being. I have a plane and a glowstone block. This is it. This glowstone block is a special glowstone block, believe it or not. It has the color of a glowstone block. Its luminance is a glowstone block. And 300. This 300, I don't really think it means that much, but I like to do it because when I first did it, it worked, and I never really tested if it works, so I probably should do that eventually. But anyways, this is kind of like a preset if you ever want to use it. Basically, you have your regular block, your Minecraft block. You have, actually this goes with anything, you just have your regular object and its texture. Put that texture in luminance, turn it to 300, and then go to illumination. You'll see that GI area light will be checked, and that's whenever you have a luminance channel, you can make the actual texture a light, and then set it to 800. Now what this does, I covered it in, I think my first tutorial, one of my tutorials I covered it, I think it was my first tutorial, and I showed how your texture can be a light. And so as you can see, this glowstone is emitting light out of nowhere just from itself, which is really cool if you don't want a light or something, or you want all your textures to emit the same light. This is an easy way to light your scene just by using textures. And I'm gonna put it to 1500 to make it a lot more pronounced. So here we go. And you can see it's going to look a lot more, there's going to be a lot more light coming off from it than there was before, yada yada. So that's what I was talking about last time. Here's the updated information. We're going to take that same idea and we're going to apply it to skies. That's right, you can make skies your own, you can make light rooms and skies and different stuff your own kind of, you can light your scene just with like a texture. That's technically what this is, lighting a scene with just a texture. And I'm gonna go over how I did this really quick. Same way, color, put in your texture, luminance, put in that same texture, illumination, keep it at 100 when you're doing the skies. And as you can see, the sky is lighting this whole scene just as you would think. Okay, so let's get into this. So the texture that I'm using right now, I have 3 different ones to show you different examples. Is just a internet texture of this colorful sky or whatever. And I put it, same settings, color channel, that picture, luminance channel, that picture with 300, and illumination stay at 100, because if you do more, since it's a sky, it's gonna really mess up things. So you either want to put this at like a 50 or 100 or somewhere between there if you want really good illumination. I would just stick to like 75 since it's in the middle of the two, but I mean, illumination is gonna happen everywhere on this. So so that's how to light your sky and stuff. You can put in different textures and stuff and get really cool results. We'll do it like this. As you can see, wherever whatever texture you have, it's gonna emulate that same kind of lighting onto the thing, and it's really cool. It's a really cool effect. and also all your reflections will get that skying, that sky stuff. So it's really awesome, really nice. A good practice to do this is to make 2 copies of sky. If you're trying to go this way, if you're trying to do sky lighting and sky reflections, a good way to do this is go into your sky, have both of them use the same texture, and on one of them you want to put a composite tag on it. So compositing tag, you want to make sure that that it's what is it, that it's not any of these, pretty sure, yeah, not any of these, and then you hide it, or you want it to be seen by rays, and you want it to be seen by rays but not by anything else. This is for reflections, so it's what you call a HDRI. So basically you can have an image not visible to the actual scene, so it's not going to be seen by the camera or anything. This one is, and this one isn't. So it's a good way to light your scene. You can light your scene and still have a different image. I can show you that really quick. So this is the image I'm going to use. I'm going to use a blue and orange image for the lighting, but so actually I will have GI on there. And then this one is gonna be, this one would be no luminance. So this isn't gonna light the scene, but this one will. So if you look at this, you can see that the blue is gonna be on here, and then the sky will actually be orange and stuff. So you can see it's different lighting. It's a totally different lighting and stuff, but it's with a, you know, just a different background. It's kind of hard to explain here. I'll do it like this, and then yeah. So basically that's only if you want to light something with a different scene. So say you have like this really nice Minecraft sky, but in like reflections and stuff, you want there to be like a sunset and all this other stuff. That's when you'd make a sky, do the compositing tag, only do these 2, make sure that this texture doesn't have any the texture for the other sky doesn't have any luminance on it, and this way you can get those kind of reflections from the sky and stuff, and that kind of lighting from the sky, and still use like a different sky texture, if that makes any sense. So last one I'm gonna do is this one, and as you can probably see, you get that really nice blue effect because the sky is blue, and it really makes for nice scene lighting. It's really quick, you don't have to do much prep work, and if you were to do it this way, you'd use very few lights. You just have to make sure that your global illumination is like medium or high, because as far as I know, I think that it is a little glitchy with object texture lighting. It's not as accurate as actual lighting. Another thing I wanted to let you guys know is that in ambient occlusion, you can check use sky environment, and basically what that's gonna do is kind of do this weird effect where it kind of tries to blend everything together. It's kind of hard to explain, but as far as I know, it kind of tries to blend everything together so that way it matches the sky setting. And to me, it kind of composites really nicely, except that the glowstone or the luminance channel is a little bit darker than it's supposed to be. Like this is supposed to be bright, but it's not bright. So that's the only problem I see with it. But with like compositing, you can kind of see that it's a little bit better than what it used to be when it was off. So, but that's it for today's tutorial. Please check me out. If you have any questions, let me know. There's a lot more stuff that I want to get into. If you want to see a particular tutorial, let me know. Don't be afraid to ask or anything. I'm always here to help, always here to do stuff. yeah, so that was lighting with TagAnimationz. My name is Adrian, and I'm out.